guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a pretty entertaining article titled, I thought my divorce would deliver freedom and incredible sex. The reality is much bleaker. And a shout out to James for sending this article. And guys, this article is written by a woman. It sounds like she's about 50 years old. And 8 years ago, when she was 42, she thought it was a genius idea to end her marriage by cheating on her husband, a husband that really provided her and her kids a great life, because she felt like she could have a much better life without him. In her 40s, freedom, incredible sex, lots of partners, excitement, all that. Well, take a wild guess how things turned out down the road. Not that good. I know I might add, all her friends were cheering her on during this. And I'm going to go over here, particularly for you divorced guys who are going to get a laugh about this, how at the end of the day, by and large, most women are never going to be happy. They can have a great life where a husband has a great income, they're wealthy, all these nice things. Nope, they're not happy. They're with a guy who gives them the thrills, but they don't have the money or the resources or security. They're not happy. It never, ever stops. It's ridiculous. And you'll see here that now she's regretful. And she's writing this hoping for some pity. Well, let me tell you, the comment section with 800 plus comments since the article was posted yesterday, there is no pity. So, all you guys that are divorced, I think you'll appreciate this one. So it starts off, she says here, it's 8 years now since my decree absolutely was finalized. Receiving the official documentation stating that Michael and I were no longer man and wife was really quite anticlimactic by then. The tears had long dried up, the bitter resentment and hurt had softened. The silver frame photos from our idyllic 2002 wedding had been quietly stored in the loft for years before and replaced with cheap, jolly wall prints ordered online. The neon pink, don't be afraid to give up the good for the great slogan had surely been purchased after drinking wine. Divorce is so ghastly, painful, and guilt-laden, you sort of have to get carried away with this female empowerment mentality to get through it. Hear that? Carried away with the female empowerment mentality. Well, let's see how that mentality works out later in time for her. When the final legal letter arrived that day on June 2017, I hid it in a drawer before the twins, then 9 years old, returned from school. Then I WhatsApped my girlfriends saying I'm officially free. Let's go celebrate. My girlfriend's woohoos replies were enthusiastic and peppered with emojis. The dancing lady, the party streamer, champagne bottles, and some saucy other things about getting back in the saddle. That weekend, we all toasted my official single status with flutes of drinks, and someone brought cupcakes topped with funny mottos like "End of an era," "Ding dong, the jerk is gone." We all remembered that famous image of Nicole Kidman throwing her arms joyfully in the air after she divorced Tom Cruise and giggling. I larked around recreating it. Hear all that? All that. Making the husband out to be the bad guy here. He's the big jerk. And they're all celebrating, because I'm assuming a lot of her friends are single. And I might add, she's in her early 40s. Well, let's see how this works out. But now she's going to go through the whole thing here about the whole situation. And let's see if her husband was really such a bad guy. And how this ends for her. She says, unlike Nicole Kidman, however, I hadn't been liberated from a Scientologist Hollywood star. Only a fairly successful businessman of 42 years old. And I wasn't an Oscar-winning actress, just a home county's mom of two. She says, Michael and I had been Bristol University contemporaries, only getting together in our late 20s when I was working as a conference planner, and he was starting his own manufacturing business. He was dry-humored, dark-haired, and as a state school girl from a working-class background, I found his public schoolboy confidence very seductive. We all said fun, easy to forget once you've been divorced. He proposed during an elephant ride in Sri Lanka, and when the animal stopped to dump during the romantic moment, we didn't see it as a bad omen. We laughed about it, knowing we'd enjoy retelling that funniest story ever. My dad is a builder, and was so proud walking his only child down the aisle in this chapel, where my groom had attended school, and my mum fussed for weeks about the various colors. We struggled to get pregnant. Smack! There's no we getting pregnant. It's the stupidest thing ever. She got pregnant. You can say we're expecting. I hate when anybody says that we're pregnant crap. But eventually our IVF twins, a boy and a girl, arrived in 2007. I think our marital problems really set in when Michael's business took off. Here we go. He traveled a lot, entertained clients most evenings, and wanted to swap our Shepherd's Bush Terrace, where I had my NCT network, for a detached home in Buckinghamshire, and with a garden and great schools. I agreed it was better for the kids, but it was more isolating for me, especially as I'd given up my career. Conference planning was not family-friendly hours. So no, she says that's when problems started, when his business took off. So there's a trade-off. This guy started his own company, which is awesome, takes balls and a lot of risk, and the money's starting to come in. And yet he's going to be the bad guy here because guess what? That's going to require a lot of time. That's just how it is. And I'm sure they discussed this before they got into it. And she was probably thinking dollar signs, or in her case, the pound signs. But yeah, the suburban moms, stitch and bitch gatherings weren't my thing. While Michael, his longer commute meant he was home even later. Our only quality time together was on holidays. Admitting these were skiing, Italian villas, and safari vacations. I'm not expecting sympathy here. But then you get irritated by the kids being so generously unused to actual parenting them. And we bickered, and I started resenting him. So yes, a lot less time together, but they're having a very nice life. Italian villas, safaris, traveling the world. They got money, but no matter what, she's not happy. Now, here's the thing. Do you think she communicated to him in a way he understood that she was unhappy? No, not at all. She expected him to be a mind reader. That's what they do. It's ridiculous. So for women that watch this video, that stumble upon this, or my regulars, communicate with your man. Tell him you're not happy. Say it in a way he understands. Don't expect him to be a freaking mind reader. Don't expect him to pick up on stupid hints. Be direct. That's how we respond. Well, during a rare date night, I admitted to Michael that I was lonely. Okay, she said that. You need a hobby, he said. Take up singing again. I'll pay for the lessons. That night we felt close enough to have sex, another thing that was frankly rare by then. Now remember, guys, this is coming from her side of the story. So what she just said there, she told him she's lonely, and he says, well, get a hobby. That makes him sound kind of cold, but I don't think it went down just like that. And the reason I say that, and not just because people might say I'm biased here, is because I'm sure most of you guys out there have ex-wives or ex-girlfriends who told their version of how things ended your relationships, and they weren't anything close to the truth. And of course, you're always the bad guy here. I want to point that out. Well, I've always loved singing, and I was in a band at university, but had only sung in the shower since then. So I booked a private lesson with Jude, a teacher I found on Facebook, for Thursday evenings when Michael was inevitably out. What happened next? You'd probably guess. It's embarrassingly cliche that I know. Yes, I was the bored housewife ripe for an affair after a decade of marriage. Through my defense, Jude was, by anyone's standard, ridiculously fit. With his dirty blonde hair, skinny jeans, smack, and my goodness, the throaty, sexy voice. The polar opposite of my corporate suit Michael that he became. Jude played gigs, knew well-known bands, and lived in town. His bohemian cool life was everything mine was not. So there you go. Boom. Time for the affair. Now, again, people could say, well, she told me she was lonely. But, again, how much more than that did she say? At the end of the day, she decided to cheat on him. And notice how you can just tell that disdain in her voice. I can just tell. Corporate suit. Well, that corporate suit that started his own company is providing this great life for you and your kids. You don't have to work anymore. You have this great place in the country, traveling around the world. Don't have to worry about money again. You know? And she's going for the guy in the band, his bohemian lifestyle. At the end of the day, if she was with this guy, then she'd be complaining that he doesn't have enough money for her. So there's never any making anybody happy here, or making them happy. Well, through singing, I found my voice again, literally and metaphorically. Jude's undivided attention, eye contact, and his hand placed tantalizingly on my diaphragm, showing where my breath needed to come from, was the most excitement I'd had in years. When he invited me to see his band play, having him wink at me from the Camden stage will remain one of the most thrilling moments of my life. And she says, oh, by the way, okay, a room above the pub. This guy's a local guy, plays in pubs. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not like he's this guy really going anywhere or in this big band or anything. But you see how she justified, after years of marriage, I'm getting this excitement? You know, if the situation was reversed, oh, the daggers would be coming out for the guys that would do this. Well, predictably, our lessons turned into passionate sex in the music room, never in our marital bed. The affair was also consuming and addictive that by month 4, I couldn't lie to Michael anymore, who had apparently not noticed any change in me. No, she had to put that. Michael didn't notice any change in me. Almost like he deserves to be cheated on because he was so busy not paying attention to me. I packed the children off to sleepovers and over red wine. For courage, I blurted out the truth. I'm in love with Jude and I want a divorce. She wants to divorce her husband, who provides this great life, who is good to her and the kids and all that, for Jude, the guy who just plays in local pubs, probably doesn't have a whole lot of money. Michael's face drained. He was shocked and angry, hurt and humiliated. Understandably, there was swearing, shouting, and for the first time I ever saw, Michael cried, deep anguish, guttural sobs. This shocked me. I felt he stopped caring. He begged me to try marriage counseling. Smack! Never beg. I never want to have marriage counseling when someone cheats on you? No. He said to me, you can't throw away 11 years of marriage without trying. And I knew he was right. And you've got to stop saying that twat, he added. Well, I promised I would sever contact with Jude while we tried therapy. My mom was horrified by the drama. She drove straight over the next day and lectured me on being a spoiled princess. Well, good for her mother. Unlike her, she pointed out that Michael, the father of my kids, provided me with everything. The house, the cleaner, exotic holidays. I didn't have to work, and I had an allowance for my hair, gym, beauty treatments. She said, Michael doesn't cheat, hit you, or come home drunk. What is your problem? I hate that women of my mom's generation had such a low bar for marriage, although I still felt childish saying, but Jude is my true love. She's saying, after all her mother said to her, and her mother's right, or her mum, that her mum's generation has a low bar for marriage. Holy crap, look at all the things she has here. But nope, she ain't happy. She's going to throw it all away, not to mention her kids, because she's cheating on her kids too, for Jude, the local guy who plays in the pubs, who I guarantee you is probably banging 5 or 6 other married women just like her. But then again, that would be probably a good thing in her eyes. Well, now listen to this. After 2 months of counseling, I did make the sensible decision to give our marriage another go. We tried, but Michael was so mistrustful and jealous, it made me like him even less. Gee, why do you think your husband is mistrustful of you and jealous? I have no idea why. In the end, it was actually Michael who called time on our marriage, 8 months after I tried to, and I was really, my heart had not been into it. Well, no shit. This was just a disaster. They should have broken it right then and there. Well, despite Jude's devastation at the time that I broke it off with him, he'd already moved on to somebody else. Of course Jude moved on to somebody else. There were probably multiple someone else's while he was banging you, honey, and you're in love with him. You're going to throw it all away for Jude? This is just the beginning. Seeing his Facebook post about new gigs and pictures of his women hurt so much it made me feel foolish. I suppose it all served me right. Well, it did. I had no problem with her feeling kind of lonely, missing her husband being around and stuff like that. That's okay. But it sounds to me, even though she said she talked about being lonely, I picture she really expected him to be a mind reader. She didn't really truly communicate to him, how she felt and all that. But even if she did, it still justified cheating on him. She could have just divorced him. But that would have been stupid, but at least she would have some integrity. Well, as divorces goes, ours was relatively straightforward. It took 2 years and cost around £3,000. This is considered cheap, I think. £3,000 for a divorce, that's cheap. There was no mention of adultery, just unreasonable behavior. I later discovered that Michael had hidden some of his money, so I didn't come out financially as well as I thought. Well, as a successful businessman, he's smart to hide some of his money. Too bad, honey. It's what you get for cheating on him. Not to mention cheating on your kids. Well, Michael has since remarried a childless barrister, and they enjoy luxury holidays while mine and more modest Eurocamp breaks. I've now been with Martin, a dentist I met in Hinge, for 3 years. He's lovely, and I get on with his adult son and even his ex. I describe our relationship as really good, and while we don't live together, part of my divorce agrees that Michael only pays for that family housing, provided no other man limbs in. Martin, the dentist, offers me emotional support, intelligent conversation, someone to cuddle up with on the sofa in the evenings, and be my plus one at dinners. But I can't lie, divorce has left me financially less secure, and it's divided our family. Now we split the Christmases and family birthdays, and they have to be navigated so to make it fair. So in other words, she's not so happy. Yeah, she's got Michael the dentist. If she's remotely attractive, she can get a guy. Doesn't sound like she's very happy, does it? And she doesn't exactly like how she is financially. Even though he's a dentist, and I would assume he does all right. And notice the other guy, her ex-husband, boom, he's moved on. He's replaced her. And I want to point out she's not mentioning what her ex-husband's girl looks like. I want to bet she's probably younger and better looking, but she's not going to mention that. Being with someone who isn't the father of your kids brings another element I hadn't anticipated. You don't share the same connection. Well, no shit, honey. That's what happens when you divorce your husband. So when my son was rushed to A&E with a sporting injury and Martin drove me to the hospital and comforted me, I knew he wasn't sharing the same old cold-blooded terror I felt at the moment. Similarly, he can't delight in all the kids' little achievements and funny anecdotes in the same way. Because no shit, he's not their father, and you chose a divorce. When I remember celebrating my divorce in those naive early days, I imagined it would be all head rushes and exciting sex like the kind I had with Jude. I crave freedom, spontaneous mini breaks, and imagine myself living my best life. Says all the women who want to divorce their husbands who are actually pretty good guys who give them good lives, and they find out the grass ain't greener. But I'm still a mom with all the adult responsibilities, stresses, and mundane domestic arrangement that comes with it. In all honesty, once that initial passion fades, long-term sex becomes the same with any man. Nice, but not earth-shattering or even that regular. Well, that's how it works. In the beginning, obviously, it's more exciting because the person's new and you're discovering things with each other and blah, blah, blah. But after a while, it's routine. The problem with women is women get bored so easily. And that's why good luck on multiple fronts with long-term deep love and the guy give them the butterflies. The only guys that can give a woman butterflies long-term are guys that typically excite them and usually treat them like shit. And it's highs and lows. It's a roller coaster. And that's why they always would chase the bad boys, even though the bad boys pretty much, are usually unemployed, don't have much money, or usually drunks or drug addicts, or don't have much going on for them. They crave the excitement. And that'll trump anything. Even a guy with a lot of money like her ex-husband here. But now she's back with a guy who sounds a lot like her ex-husband, a dentist. He doesn't work as much as her ex-husband. And she's unhappy. Big surprise. So this is why you don't feel bad for them, guys, because you're never going to make them happy. Not all, but the majority. I've lived too long, experienced too much, and honestly have heard too many stories to convince me otherwise. Once the kids leave home in the next few years, I'll have to downsize to a cheaper area, which seems a rather bleak prospect. In relative moments, I sometimes wonder whether I should have tried harder to make my marriage work. Oh, okay, now all of a sudden the ex-husband's not the bad guy. She should have tried harder. Maybe communicated better. What if I had told Michael how unhappy I was before I acted impulsively and destroyed it? So meaning when she said she was lonely, clearly she didn't really say much beyond that. Though I refused to admit this to my mother. I'm sure divorce can be liberating for many people, especially if the circumstances are toxic. But I advise others to think with their head and not just their heart before calling the lawyers. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. There you go. And this is a story that is definitely repeating and repeating and repeating. Even though she initiated this divorce 8 years ago, this is her reality at like 50 years old. I mean, really, in your 40s, you're going to have that kind of life you expected. But I'm sure all this female empowerment crap combined with all her friends cheering her on, who probably just want to be miserable just like them. And there you go. So for all you ex-husbands out there who've been through this shit, remember that this is usually what it's going to be like. So even if they're putting on a big show, maybe on Facebook, social media, acting like everything's cool, it usually isn't that great. A guy has a much easier ability to move forward after divorce than the woman does in the romance department. So there you go. Now, as you can imagine, the comment section is jam-packed, like 800 plus comments since they published this article yesterday. I'll read a few just for fun here. One guy says here, LOL, Jude, did he look you in the eye and say your husband doesn't appreciate you the way I do? It's the line he uses with all the girls down the yoga classes. Yeah, Jude's a player. He probably bangs lots of married women. And I mean, how funny is that? She thought that he'd wait around for her. No, he moved on. Another one. Her mom, you have a man who treats you well and provides you with everything you could ever want. Her, I can't believe the low bar set by mom's generation. Right. Another one. Just another cheating woman who will do it again when the next one comes along and gives her the wink. She deserves all that she gets, while her ex now has a great life. Good for him. Yeah, good for him. And last one, and this is really true. This guy says, flip the story. Say the woman was a successful author. Say she had a husband who had a good job, but nothing like her income. Let's say he became the house husband looking after the kids. Let's say he was bored and wanted a part-time job, so the wife said, we'll get a nanny. Then lo and behold, 2 months later, he's banging the nanny. If he ended up with the house and the kids, the sisterhood would have zero sympathy, yet somehow we're supposed to empathize with this lowlife who ruined her family for a cheap affair. Amen. Exactly. The situation was reversed. You know they'd be tar and feathering the guy for doing that type of thing. But here, she's looking for pity. And, well, by the comment section, she's not getting it. So anyhow, guys, I thought I'd be going to go over here. This definitely reflects the time. And this is not going to stop. You know, always the grass is greener until, they see it. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. If you've been divorced and this has been your wife's situation or your ex-wife's situation, I'd like to hear about that. And also, guys, you find a good article you want me to cover or a story you got, send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.